Well, President Biden is set to make a Supreme Court nomination sometime in the next few weeks, possibly before the end of February. So he says, after Justice Breyer announced his plans to retire at the end of the current term. Here's what the president had to say about his pick. Listen.
I will select a nominee worthy of Justice Breyer's legacy of excellence and decency. The person I will nominate will be someone with extraordinary qualifications, character, experience, and integrity. And that person will be the first Black woman ever nominated to the United States Supreme Court.
That will make history. Now, for a look at Biden's potential nominees, we're joined by Judicial Crisis Network President Carrie Severino and Constitutional Accountability Center President Elizabeth Wydra. Carrie, Elizabeth, thank you for taking time. Let's quickly look at some of the names that we are already starting to hear. Obviously, that frontrunner we've heard so much about, Ketanji Brown Jackson, and then, of course, Leandra Kruger, but we also have just here in the last 24 hours really seen a push for the third one there at the top in the center, J. Michelle Childs. First, Carrie, let me start with you. Do any of the names jump out at you?
Well, I think the ones that we have heard the most about, as you said, and that still seem the most likely, are Ketanji Brown Jackson and Justice Leandra Kruger. Jackson is straight off of the wish list of liberal dark money group Demand Justice. She's been someone that was one of their frontrunners since before Biden was even elected. And Leandra Kruger similarly has a long record on the California Supreme Court, and before that in the Solicitor General's office, that makes her a likely pick. I'm concerned about some of the arguments she's made in terms of their implications for religious freedom, and then also concerned about some of Jackson's rulings that seem to be intemperate in her language to President Trump and reaching out beyond her authority to strike down some of Trump-era regulations.
Elizabeth, you put out a statement saying that you hope that the president will nominate someone who will extend Breyer's legacy. Do any of the names on the list we showed stand out to you?
Yeah, I think the president has a wealth of options of candidates who, as he said, have stellar credentials, a commitment to equal justice and fairness, who have, this integrity and character and the real excellence that he has in this wealth of options of these potential nominees, I think is really impressive. And, Justice Breyer said at his confirmation hearings that, it's important to understand that the law must work for the people. And so I think that what he is looking for, I imagine, and I think what all of us across the ideological spectrum would hope for, is a justice who understands that the law must work for all of us, not just the wealthy or the powerful, and really have that commitment to equal justice under law. And I'm certainly hopeful that from this group that has been named, and maybe other names that haven't been out there, the president will have many options, frankly, to choose from. And, a lot of these, some of these potential nominees, like Judge Jackson, were confirmed with Republican as well as Democratic votes. So,
right.
I think that's important to remember.
Well, that's a good point, Carrie. Senator Lindsey Graham was one of 3 that voted for Jackson just back in June to the D.C. court. Of course, that has been the launching pad for several of our current justices. But do you believe that there is some influencing of who the pick is behind the scenes at the White House?
Yeah, first I'll say the appellate court nominations are a very different deal than the Supreme Court nominations. That's almost exactly what Joe Biden himself said to Clarence Thomas as he voted for his appellate court nominations, then, of course, turned around to help lead the group attacking Thomas's nomination later when he was appointed to the Supreme Court. But you're right, one of the things that really concerns me is, as I said with Jackson, but really throughout this list, we're seeing the impact of now we know over $500 million spent by liberal dark money groups to help elect Democrats in the 2020 cycle, and all told $1.5 billion being spent. That was just reported today in the New York Times. It's incredible, and these same groups are the ones pushing for some of these extremist nominees, not because of their judicial philosophy, because some of these nominees disclaim even having a judicial philosophy. It's really because they know this is going to achieve the liberal policy goals they are aiming for, and that's something that really concerns me. This seems to be payback by the Biden administration.
Elizabeth, let me give you the last word on what you think the White House really needs to be focusing on. Is there a litmus test that they should have for their ultimate selection?
Yeah, so, I think to President Biden's credit, he hasn't put out a litmus test. He said that he wants someone who, will understand that the law works for everyone, as Justice Breyer did. And, I think that we've seen this administration hit it out of the park, frankly, with their lower court nominations thus far, picking people from a diversity of professional backgrounds and experiences, and really finding the most excellent candidates that we've seen on these lower courts. And I expect him to do the same here. And they're pros at this. And so I think they will listen to themselves, obviously getting the advice and consent of the Senate. But, I look forward to have a nominee on the court who will enforce the Constitution's text and history toward equality and liberty for all of us.
We have to unfortunately leave it there. Great insight from both of you. Elizabeth Wydra, Carrie Severino, thank you for taking your time. Julian?